In the world of darkness, every human being has a single spark of potential. We humans come into the world with open eyes, and then we take our first breaths and begin to close those eyes and scream. Most people never open their eyes again after that, or when they do, they see only what they want to see, what they're told to see. But some people take that first breath and then wake up. Hello, and welcome to another lore video on Mage the Ascension. In the last video, we talked about the OTHERWORLDS mages walk, and in this video, we'll talk about how mages reach these places, so if you missed the first part, you can watch that here. There's a fine line between courage and stupidity, and it's most obvious that mages straddle that line when discussing the OTHERWORLDS, that strange brew of spirit spaces and alternate dimensions woven throughout reality. If one world isn't enough for a mage, the easiest way to leave the earthly realm is to find a portal to another world, open it, and go through to the other side. This might be as simple as opening the right or wrong door, but it might also involve elaborate rituals and permission before passage is granted beyond the door. Otherworldly portals might be obvious: huge brass gates inscribed with ornate calligraphy, stone circles with chiseled runes, crackling vortices of coruscating energy, or subtle hidden doors that flip around an apparently solid wall. Portals simply get you from this world to somewhere else without having to step sideways or employ other disciplines. Established with powerful magics, these gateways provide relatively easy access to distant places out of this world. Perhaps the rarest form of access, a shallowing is an area where the gauntlet thins out almost to nothingness. Common in folklore but incredibly rare in today's world, a shallowing lets someone walk into the otherworlds simply by wandering in the right or wrong direction. With very few exceptions, shallowings occur in remote wilderness, regions where neither technocratic procedures nor human banality have been able to seal the gap. Typically, these places wax and wane, appearing and disappearing like metaphysical fireflies in the dark. Fireflies often do mark the passage to such a place, so do heavy fogs, dust storms, tempests, or volcanoes. Nature, it seems, carves shallowings with dramatic phenomena. Certain times of the year, too, mark a thinning between worlds. There's a reason that Christmas, Halloween, Easter, and Midsummer's Eve have reputations for uncanny events. Full moon nights, misty mornings, the stroke of midnight, they're all known as times when a shallowing might open. And although it's not likely that you'll walk through a foggy night and wind up in the otherworlds, such things do happen. Legends tell of old roads and paths cut through raw creation in the earliest days of humankind. It's said that only the most primal travelers can even find these roads, much less travel them. According to lore, these paths can lead anywhere. Other mages claim to have gone through the forever mists, old roads located in nature's most elemental form. More recently, however, travelers have noticed a null zone, a system of corridors and small and empty rooms that appear to connect to the other regions. Anyone apparently can use these hallways, though no one's found or made a map of them just yet. Travelers claim you can follow these corridors to the moon, or even further if you have enough time, determination, and supplies to walk such epic distances. It's also been speculated that this zone is the form the old roads take in the modern world. A far more common and familiar path to the otherworlds begins with the ancient discipline of astral travel. When meditating, a traveler projects their consciousness out of their physical form, then flies off into the high realms of concept and ideal. Astral travel weaves a silver cord between the living body and the voyaging consciousness. In astral travel, only a mage's consciousness journeys forward. Generally, this takes one to what's often called the high umbra, which we'll explore in a future video. An experienced traveler can shift their consciousness to go to other realms as well, but the high or astral umbra is the default destination. This is the domain of the abstract, elevated concepts, the realm of heady things, and similar methods can jack one into the digital web, the magical side of the internet. But again, that's a topic for a future video. Astral travel has two fundamental drawbacks. The first is that one's body stays behind while a mage goes voyaging, and that silver cord that links one's two selves can be rather vulnerable. The second is that unless a mage is very, very good at astral travel, one goes there naked. Bringing things along is extraordinarily difficult. Astral projection also employs a mage's mental faculties, not their physical abilities, which is a boon if one is exceedingly smart and not so wonderful if they aren't. An astral voyager essentially projects their mind self, and so if they use this mode of travel, they look like a silvery reflection of their ideal self-image. Fortunately for astral travelers, it takes a lot of confidence and self-understanding to master this discipline. Thus, an astral traveler may look more impressive than their physical self looks back in the material world. The most common way to reach the otherworlds, however, involves what's called stepping sideways. Using the sphere of spirit, a mage converts themselves and perhaps a handful of belongings into ephemera, elemental spirit matter. This way, the voyager travels physically, transformed in essence, but more or less solid in the way that the spirit realm understands solidity. Travelers who step sideways enter the middle umbra, that primal spirit realm embodying elemental nature. Vividly real and yet fleetingly unreal, this otherworldly layer presents a strange mirror to the world we know in our daily lives. Once again, I'll go more into the umbrae in a future video, but for now, just remember that stepping sideways is probably the most familiar form of travel beyond the gauntlet. Stepping sideways demands an in-depth understanding of the spirit arts, or its technomagical variant, dimensional science, a traveling companion with such knowledge or a mystic or hypertech device that can perform the necessary functions for you. Like astral travel, this isn't an easy trip to make, especially not in the current age. In this regard, if nothing else, the technocracy certainly has the upper hand. It might once have been a perfectly natural thing to cross over into the spirit realm, but that's certainly not the case anymore. And then there's the most dangerous trip of all, the one we make when we die, the journey to the lower umbra, the realm of death. Certain will workers have the skill and daring to cross over into this realm and then return. It's a difficult trip though, and one that carries a bit of death back with a mage if and when they make it home alive. Supposedly, a freshly dead soul crosses over into this realm when they die. In most cases, they move on to whatever afterworld awaits them, a heaven, a hell, an afterlife, or metaphysical recycling towards another incarnation. Occasionally, though, dead souls get stuck in this realm as ghosts, trapped in the bitter shadowlands of the living world. Living travelers who want to take this trip must endure a death ritual in which the soul remains tethered to the body through complicated magic. Certain psychoactive drugs can supposedly keep a person hovering between death and life as well, although this is not a method for the faint of heart. Like stepping sideways, these methods allow a person to cross over into the death realm. The chance of coming back across the threshold, though, is a lot lower here than what other methods offer. For certain tasks, of course, only death will do. For a while, this trip was impossible for anyone except the dead. A vast ghost storm swept away all familiar aspects of the Shadowlands, rendering them impassable. These days, the journey is possible once again. Beyond the risks posed by spectral creatures of this realm, a Shadowlands traveler also picks up a bit of jor, the death resonance. Essentially, death becomes part of a person who enters its realm, and although that resonance fades a bit with time, it never completely goes away. All 5 of the methods involved in otherworldly travel have their own risks, and this sort of thing is best left to the experts, with even the experts fearing disembodiment, the state in which a living traveler goes too far or is gone too long. After 3 phases of the moon, or roughly 3 months, a traveler's living body might begin to break down into raw spirit essence. The consciousness still drives the spirit, but the body fades away. Despite such risks, adventures beyond the barriers are traditional elements of the magical path. Even the technocracy, whose ideals minimize contact with such unpredictable realms, sends certain members off to explore these alternate dimensions, if only to seal them off from the fragile human world. And although the gauntlet and other hazards make this a challenging trip, the potential insights and adventures are worth the risk. In the next Mage the Ascension lore video, we'll discuss what awaits a mage now that they've learned about the otherworlds and have safely made it to the other side, the skin of reality itself, the penumbra. I make World of Darkness lore videos multiple times a week, so if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Remember, Awakened Ones, reality is what you make of it.